guys, welcome back. So today we are going to be going over the timeline for planning a Walt Disney World vacation. So, going through the path, you've decided that Disney World makes sense, you've done all of your other research, and this is kind of the next step to know the timeline of making the other decisions. So the first thing you want to do before you make any other decisions, you've got kind of a big group of things you've got to choose about a year or two before you go so that you have a general idea. So this is when you're going to pick out what time makes the best sense for you to go. So obviously looking at the other video we've done on this is helpful. And also talking about when you can get off of work, what works for your kids' schedules, all of that kind of stuff. So you want to have that decided. You want to have an idea of what your budget is. So you want to walk into this having an idea of this is the amount of money we can spend, because obviously that's going to affect other decisions. And then things like, how are you going to get there? What kind of hotel do you want to stay at? Do you want to rent DVC points? Do you want to just stay at a normal hotel? All of those kinds of decisions happen before you do anything else. So those are things to talk about. You can think about them well in advance, so that when the time comes, you're all ready to go. So in terms of a hard schedule, though, so you've decided you want to go on a trip, the first thing obviously is going to be to book your hotel room. Now these will open up between about 6 months to a year and a half in advance. And the reason for that is because right around July, August timeframe, they will release the room reservations for the next year, so the next calendar year. So that means that back in July, they released all of the availability for 2019. And so that means that if you're going in January, you only have 6 months to book your hotel room. But if you're going in December, then you can book your room almost a year and a half in advance. So it's never going to be an issue with other things that we'll get into, but that does kind of become something to consider is that the later in the year you're going, the earlier you can book your room relatively. So that'll be the first thing. And then with right about, I'd say 4 months or so before you're going, that's when they're going to release any discounts that are going to be available to you for that time frame. So that's when they're going to release room discounts, free dining, anything like that. So one of the other things to decide around this time frame is if you want to do an a la carte kind of situation or if you want to do a Disney package. So a la carte means you book your room through Disney, but maybe you go and buy your tickets through a third party. You're not doing a dining plan. You're kind of doing this on your own, and that can oftentimes save you money. And it also gives you some more freedom in things going forward that we'll talk about when you get really close to the day of. A lot of times if you do book a package, there'll be special perks. They'll give you a free pass to the golf course. They'll give you some luggage tags. Nothing really worth that for just those small things, but it is something nice that they include. The main thing is going to be if you want the dining plan, if you're going during free dining, anything like that, sometimes you have to buy a package through Disney. Some of the discounts are only available as a package deal through them. So sometimes this decision is made based off of what discount you want to do. So I recommend waiting, seeing what discounts become available, and then at that point, deciding if you want to go with a package or if you want to go a la carte. So I wouldn't buy your tickets before then. So a really big, really important number to remember is 180. 180 days before you arrive at Disney World is a very important date. And my best recommendation is to get a countdown app for your phone or something like that, or start a countdown at home. It's a fun way. It's something nice to look at your phone and be like, oh my gosh, it's 200 days, it's 180 days, and that sort of thing. But more importantly, it's going to keep you on track in terms of when these days are coming up. So 180 days is very important if you are staying at a Disney World resort. For a lot of these, I'm going to mention that. Is that because that is when you can make your dining reservations. Now, it's not just for your arrival day. If you are staying at Disney World and you are staying at a Disney-run resort, you can make reservations not just for that arrival day, but for your entire trip up to 14 days. So you can make your entire trip's dining reservations in one day. It opens up at 6 o'clock Central Time. I'm going to check and I'll write a note if that's not correct. I'll put a little note in this. And so that is going to be, you're going to wake up, you're going to be all ready to go, and you're going to make all of your dining reservations. And that's a really important one to do because some reservations fill up practically immediately. And if you aren't there right away, you may not get to go to Be Our Guest. You may not get to go to Cinderella's Royal Table or Ohana or Chef Mickey. There are some dining reservations that are very, very competitive for one reason or another. And so you want to be up bright and early on that day, ready to get all of your reservations. And so it is a big perk of staying at the resort is that you can make them all that day and you can get an edge over other people because you'll be able to make reservations that other people don't have access to yet. So if you're not staying at Disney World Resort, but you want to eat at Disney World, you're going to have to get up every day of your trip to make those reservations. So if your trip is 7 days long and you're staying at another resort, every day for a week, you're going to be getting up early to make those reservations. So that is kind of a bummer. It can be kind of exhausting to do that. But it's really critical to make those dining reservations as soon as you can because they are extremely competitive. So the next important day is going to be at the 60-day mark. So you've made your dining reservations, discounts have come out, you've bought your park tickets. You need to make sure that you buy your park tickets between the 180 mark and about 70-day mark, I'd say. That's a good date to do it. Because at the 60-day mark, you can make your Fastpass reservations. And we're going to go over this more in detail, but Fastpasses are kind of a way to skip the line and skip some of the wait for some of the more popular attractions. It's a really critical tool to making sure that you're not spending your whole trip in lines. And this can be the other thing that's very, very competitive. And so you want to be up around, it happens at the same time, so that 7 o'clock time frame in the morning of getting up and making all of your reservations. And again, that's going to be for the full time frame that you're on your trip. And so what that does is, so if you have a 5-day ticket, you can make fast passes for within I think it's the 14-day range for however long you're on your trip for 5 different days. So it's not going to, if you have 5 days of park tickets, it's not going to let you make reservations for a 6th day because you don't have enough tickets for it. But that is a really incredibly important thing to do, is to make those fast passes early for Flight of Passage, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, things like Frozen Ever After, and when they open for Star Wars, because those are going to be extremely competitive fast passes to get, especially at important time frames. So you really want to make sure you're getting up early and you're getting ready to go for those. Now, if you are getting a package, your final payment is due at the 45-day mark. So that means that your full payment for your hotel, for your park tickets, and if you also have it for your dining plan, are all due 45 days before your trip. And so you need to make sure that that's all in there, or else stuff will get canceled on you. Now, if you aren't going with a package, if you're going a la carte, then you're going to be paying for things as they come up. So you're going to be paying for your park tickets when you purchase them. You're going to be paying for dining as you go to the restaurants. And then in terms of the hotel, when you make your hotel reservation, they're going to require a 1-night deposit. And so, or a security deposit that's going to be equivalent to one night at that hotel. So if the nightly rate is $180, you're going to be owing $180 right away. And then once you check out of the hotel and you're leaving at the end of your trip, that's when the rest of the room charges will be charged onto your card. So that's how the difference is in terms of payment. Now, if you are not staying at a Disney resort, if you're staying off property, the 30-day mark is when you can make fast passes. That's when Fastpass Reservations open up to the general public. So that's a big time gap. You know, with dining reservations, it's just a day or, it's a few days ahead that you get. But for fast passes, you can get a 30-day advantage on other people in terms of getting, those premier fast passes. Now, something important to know is that a lot of times Disney will hold back a certain amount of fast passes. So if they have 100 fast passes for Frozen Ever After in a day, which they have a lot more, but 100's an easy number to deal with. What we think they do is that for most days, there'll be 60 or 70 available right away. They'll have about 20 available that they'll release at the 30-day mark. And then there'll be another 10 that'll become available on that park day. And so, and we don't know for sure how much it really is in each category, but that's the general idea of it. So if you can't get a fast pass, keep checking. And also with dining reservations, check all the time, check often. Keep going back, keep refreshing, check on the day of, all of that kind of stuff. And you might get lucky and you might be able to get those fast passes and dining reservations you couldn't get. But if you can, it's so much easier to get up early and just do it right when it becomes available. And then you're not constantly checking. So that is something to keep in mind. You can get lucky and get something later on, but it's not a guarantee. And so you really want to be prepared ahead of time. Now, on the 30-day mark, that is also the last day that you can cancel a package deal without being charged a fee. And this is one of those things that's kind of a drawback of the package, is that it's a lot more limited. And so you don't have the ability to cancel much closer to your trip. And so you really need to be confident about it. And so that's one of the nice things about going a la carte, is that if you need to cancel, it's not as big of a deal. That's one of the things. Also, if you're going during hurricane season, if you're going in January and you live up north like I do, you should at least consider trip insurance. That's something that you can get, and then it will cover some of the costs and reimburse you if for some reason at the last minute you have to cancel a trip and Disney won't reimburse. The one thing that is nice and that Disney is pretty good about, though, is reimbursing during hurricane time. They are pretty understanding, especially when you have these really strong storms like we've had the last couple of years where they've had to close the parks. They are pretty good about refunding and being understanding about people not being able to go. And you can certainly call and try to plead your case, and they may consider it and they may give you that refund even though it's after that 30-day mark. But it's not a promise. It's not a guarantee. And so if you can, you want to be sure, you want to get trip insurance. If you're a little bit uneasy, if you're a little bit nervous about that kind of stuff, especially if you're going on a cruise, which is a whole nother conversation. But, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, around that time is when you're also going to be able to go on and pick your magic bands. So you can actually do this, I think, right after you make a hotel reservation. You can go on and choose this color and the name you want on your magic bands and everything. And it doesn't need to be your legal name. I know when my husband and I went for our honeymoon, we put wifey and hubby on ours. It's like a cool thing because it was our honeymoon. So it's just a nice way so that you can identify them between the two. So you want to be ordering that. You want to be putting in your color requests as soon as you can, really. I think they ship them out at the 20-day mark or the 30-day mark. on your Disney thing, you know, when we went over all of that on the other video and I showed you where you go to choose your magic band and everything, there will be a counter in the corner that will say you have 10 days to order your magic band, or you have 20 days, or that kind of thing. So things like that, things like putting in your request for Magical Express to get you from the airport if you're flying into Orlando, that kind of stuff. You want to do that as soon as you can, just so that it's done and it's nothing you need to worry about later on. You know, I have heard, though, that if you don't do Magical Express and you show up and you scan your band, a lot of times they'll let you on anyways, especially if it's during the normal hours. You know, if you're coming in at noon, they're just going to put you on the bus and it's not a huge deal. But it is nice to have that assurance of they know you're coming. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Now, if you don't go with a package, you need to cancel a hotel reservation. You need to do that 5 days before your arrival date. So that is the latest you can cancel without at the least losing your deposit and potentially also being charged for other nights of your hotel. So that's the other one to keep in mind. And then if you are doing Memory Maker, you want to order that at least 4 days before your trip. And that is because if it's within 3 days of your arrival when you want to use it, they're going to jack the price up $20. And so that's a good way to save money. Memory Maker is another one where I really recommend buying it sooner rather than later. Disney hasn't hiked the price of it the way they have other things. You know, ticket prices are always increasing, hotel prices are always increasing, food prices are always increasing. Memory Maker has been kind of a weird situation. It was $150 on my first trip, which was over 3 years ago now, and we bought it. And we found out that the price was going to go up $20. It was going to drop up to $170 within the next couple of days. So we bought it at the $150 price, and then it went up to $170. And then within a few months, Disney did a weird thing, and they actually lowered the price back down to $150. And it stayed there for a very long time. And then within the last year or so, they bumped it back up to that $170 price. Now, it hasn't gone back up. It has been at that price. But with something like that, it's always better to buy it, know you have it at that price, and if they bump it up in price, you got it at the lower one. So that's a bit of advice in terms of that. So that's the important stuff in terms of the timeline for going on a Disney trip. So if you guys have any questions about anything, of course, always feel free to leave it in the comments. And I hope you guys are all having a magical day, and I will see you soon. Thanks. Bye.